Welcome to the MS Dev Show, episode number 134. This is our special Christmas episode where Carl and I exchange tech presents. Cortana is getting hardware. And Ubiquiti, all the things.
This episode of the MS Dev Show is brought to you by Expose, the market leader of .NET and Java APIs for file business formats. Natively work with DocX, XSLX, PPT, PDF, MSG, MPP, image formats, and many more.
Today we have a special Christmas episode. This is not a clip show like some of those other horrible podcasts. I hate when they do that. I can never listen to those clip shows. I think that's such a cop-out. So what we decided to do, we want to do something different. And I thought it was a great idea. And then when I actually had to do it, it was a horrible idea. So hopefully today, I think it's a great idea again. But we decided
I had a blast.
Yeah, we decided to get basically geeky presents for each other. And I guess the only stipulation, we were trying to keep it, we were targeting around $100. I went over by $4. I don't know where you ended up landing. It doesn't really matter. But we just thought this would be kind of cool. Normally I don't get presents for pretty much anybody. So this was new for me. So we just figured we'd do that and we'd kind of talk through the whole thing and see what happens. Yeah.
And the other stipulation was there could only be 1 gig gift.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I found it really, really difficult, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that really, really soon here. So let's talk about the Expose comment of the week.
So this week we actually have an iTunes listener out of the UK. He commented the title, my current favorite developer podcast. His name was Pice180. Mm-hmm. And his comment was, this is a great podcast. They have amazing guests and they ask questions that you want them to. Definitely worth listening and subscribing to. Well, thanks, Pice180. And if you'd like to get mentioned on the show like him, send us an email to feedback@msdevshow.com or comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Stitcher. We really love those 5-star iTunes reviews.
Yeah, we do have great guests. We have awesome guests. I feel like
we do,
yeah.
And we have a couple of good ones coming up next couple of weeks as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty excited about those.
Yeah, I just feel really thankful for the people that were able to get on the show. I really appreciate them coming on there. So thank you so much. Okay, so let's jump into the news. We have a couple news items here. The first one I'm super excited about. Cortana to open up new devices and developers with Cortana Skills Kit and Cortana Devices SDK.
Yeah, so I think this is actually a really interesting announcement. So they kind of co-released this announcement with Harman Kardon and saying that there's going to be kind of like a speaker-like device, kind of like there is the Google Home or the Amazon Echo. But what they also mentioned is with this Skills API and SDK that you'll be able to bring all of these features not only to these devices, but to existing Cortana as well as car, home, giant screens, and no screens. Yeah. So there was a lot of ambiguity in that. They left it quite, they didn't fill in the details. Mm-hmm. But, being able to use these kinds of APIs on a wide variety of things really makes it interesting. I mean, I can definitely see Cortana in my vehicle. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be interacting with things. I want to just say, hey, turn the volume off or call whoever. I mean, somewhat common things now, but things that can be done so much better.
Yeah, and I haven't used CarPlay, so I don't know if they do that. I do know that like Siri on my iPhone, it works really well until I put it in the car and it's over Bluetooth. And for whatever reason, the thing just does not work. If I want to use it in the car, I end up turning off Bluetooth and then it works perfectly. But so speaking of hardware, so I wanted to kind of break this down because there's a couple different sections in here. But in regards to hardware, I knew ahead of time that we were going to be releasing we were going to be releasing something. I didn't know any of the details around it. And what it looks like is it's basically like the OEM model, which I think is really the only way to differentiate here because, Amazon has a good product. Google Home, I haven't really heard much about it, but I assume that their product is good as well. And I really didn't want a Me Too product. That doesn't really help anybody. So I was wondering how this was going to be differentiated. I am excited about this because my complaint about all the existing devices is that they're not great speakers. I know the Echo is supposedly pretty good, but every time I've talked to people about playing music over it, some people say, it's okay. You really got to get the big one to get like decent sound, but to have great sound on this thing is exciting. The combination of something like a Sonos and Cortana, it excites me because I can use it for music, and it just happens to also have the Cortana stuff in it as well.
And the thing that's kind of cool along with that is it looks like from the beginning you'll be able to, as a developer, port your existing like Amazon Echo skills over to this.
Okay.
So I'm not sure exactly what that means, but there was definitely a section on there because the SDK isn't open. They were still like taking requests to, see the SDK at this point.
Yeah, the Amazon API is completely different than how you'd work with Cortana or bots or things like that. So I'm curious what that's going to look like, because there's a lot of limitations in there. I know people love the device, so a lot of developers have flocked over there, but I've definitely heard a lot of complaints about how you actually develop for that. And I think the other thing that's kind of frustrating to me is it doesn't know who you are. My phone knows who I am. So I think this ends up being different in that regard as well. I guess I don't have any details. Our next episode, hopefully we can get some of those answers, because that's what our next episode is on. But every time I've looked at the Alexa, it just falls short in some way. So the other piece of this announcement was basically the integration of bots as Cortana skills. So I've pointed this out before. Actually, if you go back, I don't know how long ago this was. It was at least months ago when bots were first announced. One of the things
back at Build.
Yeah, it was back at Build. So one of the things that I asked him, and I don't know if you caught on to this, and I had no future knowledge. I just knew like what I wanted this to look like. I had asked him, hey, there's like Cortana and there's bots, and really at some point if I create a bot, I just want to use Cortana as kind of the front end for that. And that was the other part of this announcement was essentially that skills API that will hook into the bot framework. Because as a developer, I never want to write to all these different code bases. I don't want to have to write a Cortana skill and then also write a bot, especially if they're going to be basically the same thing, same question response type of thing. So that's exciting to me. Anytime I can write less code and get more value out of that and have my code run in more places, that makes me happy. Anything else you want to mention on that article?
No, but I think the next one kind of flows. It's got a very similar theme.
True.
Q&Amaker.ai.
Yeah.
From fact to bot in minutes.
Yeah.
So, you were just talking about how you kind of don't want to do much and you want to just have that Cortana be your front end.
Yep.
Well, what this will do is if you have like a question and answer based FAQ,
frequently asked questions, you can actually point this service at that, and it'll turn that into a bot. So if you have, maybe, a FAQ like, how do I sign up for this service? And, maybe there's some steps on there and they're already in a FAQ, you could do it through a bot. Yeah.
And have that bot guide you through that.
Yeah, they had a pretty good example here too. Where was it? It must have been in the documentation. Whenever I went through, I don't know where it ended up going.
They even have a quick start video. I didn't notice that the first time I looked through here.
Yeah, where was I thought they had one on here. Oh, here we go. So they gave a really good example here where you say, where you're chatting with your knowledge base. You say hello, or sorry, the bot says hello, and then you say, where is my product key? So this is kind of a Windows related question. And then the answer is your product key is 25 characters and blah, 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 blah. It's one of those things where, sure, you could go to the frequently asked questions and you could look for it. You could potentially search that page. You could potentially search the web. But in this case, once people start to understand that bots have the intelligence and they have that database built into them, then you can, have this type of conversation where you can ask a really simple question. And it's sort of like a search, except, just a little bit more targeted. So it gives you the exact result that you're looking for. So I thought that was a pretty cool example. Anything else you wanted to mention on that one? That's just, again, saving you time. And then this next one, Ubiquiti, all the things, how I finally fixed my dodgy Wi-Fi.
So a lot of people that I personally follow on Twitter have really, in the last 2 or 3 months, have been talking either quite a bit about either getting Ubiquiti
Mm-hmm.
Wi-Fi routers or putting products in their house or looking at about to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Troy Hunt just had this blog post about really, this is a really thorough breakdown of what he bought, where he bought it from, why he chose the pieces. And I think this is just kind of a unique take on kind of the whole, all the hardware that we use for our networking in our houses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look at Ubiquiti, they traditionally have a little bit more of an enterprise focus. They have like the point to point microwave dishes, so you could like hit people 30 kilometers away with stuff like that. So they really have a lot of different products made for that. Hey, it just has to work.
Mm-hmm.
But if you also look at what's approaching more of their consumer, because I won't say any of these are directly consumer, but they are really easy to use. They're single purpose. So you don't just get like a router like it does everything. You get a Wi-Fi router or you get a network switch, and it just does what it has to do. If you want more things, you have to essentially buy another piece.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to see really kind of like what somebody who has a pretty well thought out home network with nothing but Ubiquiti items, I think Troy had a really great article right here. And he even did things approaching this, like he put out like a GitHub gist saying, this is what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have any other thoughts on this?
That was great to get feedback ahead of time.
Yeah, and he's got a fairly large house, probably 2.5 times the size of mine. I think he said like over 5,000 square feet.
5,381. That's a pretty big house spread over 3
so
levels.
He ended up getting like 5 Wi-Fi access points and like a bunch of different switches. I mean, there's like 6 or 7 different products here from Ubiquiti, and he put down all the prices and everything. And this isn't cheap, but from whatever everybody that I've heard from is once you get this in place and set up, everything just works smooth as butter.
Yeah. Until the next generation of faster products comes out. So I have so many comments on this. So first of all, I really liked your comment. I think it's dead on. Any of these companies that are creating these high-end commercial products that also happen to get into the consumer space, I love that. I love those products. Like Garmin was one of them, where they did like a lot of aircraft equipment, and then they brought that tech, basically shrunk it down, and then they started creating GPSs for cars. That's why I always love Garmin. Just they know what they're doing. You're getting all this R&D essentially for free. It's just super exciting to me. So Ubiquiti kind of doing the same thing, being consumer or commercial. I guess you could sort of say the same thing about Cisco. They own Linksys. I don't know how much of that actually, how much they're actually integrated. It's probably more and more, so you probably get more and more of that. But a couple other things. One interesting thing about Wi-Fi hardware is that my understanding, and I could be wrong, but my understanding is that in general, there's really only like a couple actual different variations of Wi-Fi hardware as far as like the processors and the boards and that type of thing. It's really everybody. It really comes down to software and some of these other things. Really just packaging it together. I bet you the software is like 90% of what you're buying, to be honest. And the reason that I think that's the case is if you look at some of these Wi-Fi for aftermarket firmware packages, the reason they can support so many routers is because they end up having the same hardware. A new company will come out with a piece of hardware, a new Wi-Fi router, and they're like, oh yeah, that's the Broadcom chip on this board, so we can easily support that. It's not an issue, and they just make some tweaks, and boom, they can now support running their firmware on there. I think it's more about the installer than anything else. The other thing is, I don't know, this seems like overkill to me. I guess everybody has a different situation, and he spent a fortune on this. What was the total? Was it 2,000?
It was in Australian dollars, which I think is like a 25%. More than US dollars.
But yeah, favorable for them.
Yeah, but it was something like about 2,000 Australian dollars.
Okay, so maybe like
in that ballpark.
Yeah, I guess there's probably a lot of us that at the end of the day, You know, as engineers, as working in the software field, like I think at least the people I've dealt with are more likely to spend extra money to solve all their problems. And if this solves all of his problems, like I can understand why he was willing to spend all that money. Like
Yeah.
I get it.
I mean, and just looking at this one screenshot, he has 5 access points,
Yeah,
two PoE switches, and
yeah,
then a security gateway. So I mean,
yeah,
that's also a fair amount of hardware. So
yeah.
it's not like most people who would want something similar could probably get by with 2 or 3 access points and a PoE switch.
Yeah, he could have saved a lot of money if he didn't go PoE, or if he just did. Somebody in the comments had actually mentioned this, using like PoE injectors. The reason is PoE was so expensive. Like I have PoE as well, and I want to say my Switch was somewhere between $50 and $80. But the difference is that he's using gigabit. The gigabit PoE switches, they skyrocket in price for whatever reason. It must have something to do with how they actually have to inject power on the lines, because I don't know if there's less spare wires that they're dealing with, or what's going on there. But the other thing, I know you and I have had a lot of conversations about Wi-Fi, and I'm kind of curious too. Like I'd love to hear feedback from our listeners. But my philosophy, first of all, is if it doesn't move, then wire it. Like if you have the ability at all, try to wire it. And I've gone pretty to great lengths to make this happen. I was fortunate in the house that we just purchased that they actually had like coax and Ethernet run to basically every room, and I was able to wire it all up in a central location. But so that means all my streaming devices. Streaming devices are the biggest ones. I mean, they're going to suck up all your Wi-Fi bandwidth, and they're highly susceptible to things like latency. And video, you're going to notice if you don't have enough bandwidth, or if you have some latency in there, at least initially. The latency doesn't matter after it gets started. But wire everything that you can. So in my house, I almost have everything completely wired. The machine I'm on now, all the computers are wired. The things that aren't wired are the phones. I have a thermostat that's on Wi-Fi. I still have some gaming systems that are on Wi-Fi, but I'm going to wire those, because the biggest thing is that the people don't necessarily understand is that there's a noise floor with Wi-Fi. Think of them, instead of thinking as signals that you can't see, imagine people yelling or people talking. If you're in a quiet room, you can talk really quiet, and you can actually you can convey a lot of information back and forth, right? Because you're in an environment where you're able to talk very quickly and the other person can still understand you. Now think about a party where you have all these people show up. You're all in the same room and everybody keeps talking louder and louder. And maybe you throw some music into it too. And we'll say the music is like the neighbor's Wi-Fi. Everybody, you start yelling, and your comprehension goes way down. That's exactly what happens with Wi-Fi. So if you have all these different things competing, then that's an issue. And I think that's one of the reasons why he has to have so many different. He has to have 5 different access points. I don't think it's a signal issue, because I know you spent a ton of money. I shouldn't say a ton of money, okay? Because when we're talking $2,000 or $3,000 here, you spent what, a couple, like $200-300 on your access point.
Yeah, I spent like $280.
Yeah. And I know, like, my access point, and the house, I think, makes a difference as well, because mine does not reach as far as it did in my old house. At my old house, I could actually walk 50 feet away from my house on any side, and it would cover it. And I had a big house. Like, mine was almost as big as Troy's here. And it would actually cover everything perfectly fine. I noticed, so I have a TP-Link. I think the value of those is incredible, because it's like $130 routers, like the regular price, not even on sale. And it's an incredible value. The only thing that the thing where I've seen the biggest difference between like the router that you bought and mine is on the 5 gigahertz band. Yours seems to get more signal and more speed at a greater distance. Because what ends up happening is a lot of people will go up to 5 gigahertz because they're like, oh, well, the 5 gigahertz is better because it's because it's a bigger number. The reality is the higher the frequency, like the more energy it takes to go a greater distance. So, just because of physics, if you have the same amount of power pushing out 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, your 5 gigahertz will not go as far. So I'm not sure what the difference is between yours and mine. I don't know if it's just more powerful or what the deal is. But the point that I'm trying to make there is if you are able to get your Wi-Fi uncongested and you have a good wireless access point, in a good location in your house, and it's sort of unobstructed. And again, it's going to depend, if you have like metal studs or something, like I don't know what the heck you're going to do. But if you have a normal house, if you're not getting signal like everywhere, I would seriously like try to figure out what's going on there. And one of the things that I know is the case is like Wi-Fi doesn't like, I shouldn't say it doesn't like to go vertical, because Wi-Fi doesn't care about direction, but your antennas generally, the signal, because of the way that they're aligned, they generally don't work well vertically. There's probably ways that you can move your antennas. So if anything, like if you have a 3-story house, what I'd probably do is I'd probably put one access point in the center of each floor. And I've considered doing that in my house, but again, now with my Wi-Fi being pretty much completely uncongested, it doesn't matter at all. So I probably over talked about all of that stuff. So I don't know.
Not a big deal.
Yeah, he spent a lot of money. I think it's really diminishing returns. I think if this guy had your Wi-Fi router like in the middle of his house and he wired pretty much everything else, I think he'd actually have a better experience. Because what does he say here? Desktop PC. Yeah, see right here. This gave all my study connectivity as well. Desktop PC, NAS, printer. Those things should be wired. The fact that he's doing everything wireless, and maybe it's because of a house, I don't know. But man, he would just, I think if he had spent $1,000 wiring his house and then spent, the $280 on the access point that you bought, I think that he would actually be in a better situation.
Well, either way, I think one of the things I took out of this is I kind of assumed that some of the Ubiquiti products was more like a common router that does more.
Yeah.
So if I would have went with this product, I probably would have been a little bit disappointed that I would have had to buy more pieces really so that was part of the reason why I really wanted to bring this up. If you are looking at Ubiquiti, I'm not making any judgment call on what it is. I think everybody else has a lot of great reviews on it, but just make sure that you buy what you need, since they do things a little bit differently.
Yeah, and try to figure out if you can sort of do it additively. Put something in, add more. One of the biggest, one kind of final thought here is one of the biggest issues with Wi-Fi is people actually having too much power. You think that it would just work better, but think back to my analogy about people talking in a room. It's like saying, hey, the way that we're going to solve this whole communication issue at this party is, as you show up, just yell all night. And so your first guest shows up and he's like, "Hi, Carl." It's going to be a bad situation. He's going to convey actually less information. So I would actually, having all of these access points, you actually want to dial the power down, because you only want, you want to have overlap in the signal, but you want to have, a strong signal to that local one. But just remember that more is sometimes less in regards to power and Wi-Fi. Okay, what do we got next here? Payment Request API Edge, simpler web payments. What is this?
Yeah, so it looks like there's a standard that's coming out for payment requests, and in particular for you to use your built-in wallet or payment system that's built into your operating system. And if you can develop against that, the OS can take or the browser can then fulfill that e-commerce request. Right. They say in here that 46% of e-commerce shoppers abandon checkout process during the payment phase. So if they can have that optimized workflow for payments, that can really help get you through to completing the sales. And this isn't something that Microsoft is just doing. Like I said, this is a standard. I think, this is coming out in an upcoming version of Edge that will be out with the creators update. I think this is already out for Chrome for Android.
So this is the W3C Web Payments Working Group designed the API. Very cool.
Yeah. So this is something like if you are taking payments for whatever reason on your website, this might be something you want to look to add coming soon.
Yeah. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I mean, if I can avoid having to type in all the information, anytime you make that easier, that's a good thing.
And I would generally much rather pay with either my Microsoft Wallet, Apple Pay.
Yeah.
I mean, I have my information into all of them.
it's going to be more secure too, because right, if that thing pops up, like they have to have a certain level of security. There has to be a certain security negotiation that happens there, and I'm sure there's like tokens being passed instead of just
Yeah.
blindly giving them my credit card number. So that's pretty exciting to me. I like that.
And like you said, I would rather use like Windows Hello or my thumbprint on my iPhone than having to type in my credit card
Yep.
to some shady spot every time.
Well, I hate it when they're like, "What type of credit card do you have? What is your credit card number?" It's like, you know what type it is. Like literally, like if you're a developer, probably most of our listeners are smart enough to know this, but like the first digit tells you like who it is. Like Mastercard is 5,
Or
Visa.
I
is
recently
4.
came across one where they blocked autofillers. So normally I have Chrome
What is the
remember
point
my
of that?
information.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it blocked it. So I didn't buy from them.
Yeah, I love the sites whenever whenever you first type the first digit in there, it will pop up and it will tell you what type your card is, and then they figure out everything. And then the other thing is that the next digits are basically which bank it is, and then they can use the LUN algorithm to determine whether or not basically there's a check digit in your credit card number, so they know if it's valid or not right on the client. Like it's so obvious whenever sites do this right. So having the browser do it is even better because I know that it'll get implemented correctly one time and we're done.
Aspose offers a powerful set of file management APIs with which developers can create applications which can create, open, edit, and save the majority of popular business file formats. Their product range supports a multitude of file formats, including Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, PDF documents, OneNote, Outlook, Project, Visio files, popular image formats, and many others. Aspose produces APIs for .NET, Java in the cloud, which can be utilized in almost any modern language available today. Visit www.aspose.com for a free 30-day no limitations trial. And if you get stuck, message the friendly support team for help. All technical support is offered free of charge. Remember, if you're a lucky winner, you will receive a free developer small business license for Aspose.words for .NET, a powerful toolkit to work with Word documents in your applications.
Okay, so how do you want to do this? You want to alternate, or you want me to open my stuff first?
Yeah. Let's alternate. I had a specific order that I wanted you to pull yours out.
Okay.
So the first one is your least impressive gift.
Way to
So
talk it up.
I had seen other places that have the gift that I had gotten to you, but done way better. The problem is that this is an iPhone accessory, and for the iPhone version of this, they just didn't do a very good job at all. So
Okay, I'm opening it right now. If you're on video, obviously this would be better, but
yeah,
holy cow.
we'll try to keep the talk as much as possible.
I see
So
a whole bunch. I
these-
see a whole bunch of cables.
So these look like lightning cables,
Okay.
and they are. But if you plug one into a USB port,
Yeah.
they also light up.
Oh, really? And they have a cute
So-
little smiley face as well. Here, let me get this.
Yeah,
on the
so
camera.
I've seen some of these for USB-C and micro USB, where they're really nice cables. The cables themselves are like just well done. You could tell that those are a little bit cheaper, but also like when they didn't start lighting up right away when you plugged it in, like those will light up right away as soon as you put it into a power outlet. The other one's only charged when it was actually drawing power. And not only that, but they had like a little LED animation, so it looked like the lights were going towards your phone. So yeah, I got you 4 of those.
Let's just do it. I'm gonna try it off of a battery here. See, there we go.
Yeah, so
I got two.
Those
My lighting is too good. I'll put it right by the camera. So yeah, the entire cable lights up. That's pretty cool. And man, who can't?
Yeah,
who
so
can't
I got
use
those
more
off of-
iPhone chargers.
yeah, so I got those off of there's an app for iPhone and Android called Geek, and it's powered by Wish.com. It's essentially a place for Chinese sellers of products to sell things really cheap.
Okay.
And sometimes you get some really cool things.
Yeah.
So I had been checking that place out for a while, and as soon as you had mentioned wanting to do this holiday gift exchange, I thought, I'm definitely getting you something from off of there. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And I don't know how good those cables are, but I definitely thought it was kind of a fun purchase.
Yeah. So just kind of a quick observation. Like this end of them looks like way bigger than normal. I don't see that necessarily as a downside. This side seems normal. I assume that they're like iPhone certified cables. In which case, that's great because they have to meet supposedly certain requirements. But I think
am
they're
not making that guarantee.
yeah, so they're pretty cool. I don't know if I'll ever plug one into a PC because that's always a bad idea to like plug something like this into your computer. But I'll definitely use them for charging, which is, I guess, I never have to plug my phone into a computer anyway. So very cool. So I think your gifts are, even though that was the first one, it's already more thoughtful than the stuff I got you. Now you got a whole bunch of stuff that's all in the same box. So what you'll have to do, just kind of blindly reach in and grab something.
So actually, these are all in 3 different boxes. So this first item here is audio splitters. These are things that I left at your house, and you bought me new ones of.
Yeah.
So
something that I knew you needed.
Yes, I definitely need these for the recording because now I'm actually recording without an extra backup.
Oh, geez. Okay, so you can take another one out. That's fine. Go take another one out because that was kind of... That one doesn't count.
All right, so I have another smaller box. So
okay,
if that gives you
it probably has multiple too.
Yeah, Jason just sent all of his straight from Amazon to me.
Yeah.
Whereas
I'm so lazy.
I hand packed mine and shipped them to.
Yes, Carl did a much better job, and his were more thoughtful.
All right, so I'm seeing something that says Metal Earth, the Seattle Space Needle.
Yep. So
this looks like it's a 3D puzzle.
Yeah, no. So I've seen those at gift shops, and I always thought that they were really cool. You'll start seeing them everywhere, but basically it's like a sheet of metal. You pop out the pieces, and you can build things, or you can build a thing out of it. In this case, it's the Space Needle. So I just wanted to give you a little taste of Seattle, so you can keep it.
This is really cool because I've done a lot of 3D puzzles, but I've never seen one made out of metal, and that's essentially what this is.
Yeah. Yeah, I keep thinking puzzle is the wrong word, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it's something you have to like put together. It's more like a 3D model. It's more of a model, I would call it. So I saw those in stores. I'm like, okay, I got to get Carl that. So I was hoping that I could find that.
Okay, so I'm not looking in too far. It looks like there's something else in this box, and then I have a big box.
Okay, well, I'll grab one. I'll get another one of yours here. Which one should I do next? The Walmart bag one?
Yeah, there's a
Use this packing material.
Yeah, so this is something that I ordered online kind of blindly, and it ended up being way cooler than I thought it was.
I've seen these at shops too recently as well.
That's an Ocarina from the Zelda series, and not only that, but it's actually playable.
Oh, and there is a chart here.
It tells you how to, what note holes make which notes if you're going to read and play from music.
Oh, wow. This is pretty cool.
So I figured even if you didn't want to play it, it would look really cool on your desk.
Yeah, it does look cool. Look at that. So how do you... Oh, this is really complicated.
You blow into
Back. I don't even know which way it goes. What do I blow into?
That little piece that sticks out. Looks like.
Here we go. There's some pictures on the front. So it's like... I have no idea what I'm doing. I can't even make it make a sound, but there's instructions in here, so I'll have to follow those. Give you one more.
I've seen somebody who had bought one that actually played it, and it didn't sound too bad. So I think you just need some practice.
I need to cover up more of the holes, I'm thinking. Hey, it made a sound.
There you go. You blew our ears out with that one.
Sorry. That's really cool. That's very thoughtful too. That's pretty cool. Thank you.
So the next thing, it says 6 wooden puzzle set.
Yep. Yeah, so one of the things that I really, so what I did is I was just paying attention in stores, like different things that you could get. And then I tried to find, equivalent things on Amazon just to make my life easy. But what I wanted was I wanted something, you kind of sit there. There's certain times when you're in a meeting or something and you kind of want to fidget or do different things.
I'm such a fidgeter.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I want to get them like some puzzles and there's, there's like some metal ones. And I think those are all sort of the same theme, but I wanted to get some that were a different material. So these ones I think are actually made out of wood, and I think there's 6 different puzzles in there.
Oh, these are cool.
Yeah.
So these are the things you got to like figure out how to take them apart and how to
Yeah.
put them back together.
Yep. So even though, so if there's one that's not good, I mean, there's 6 of them in there, so it should keep you busy. I just thought that was really cool.
And it smells like fresh cut wood, so that's awesome too.
And there's a wood box for it.
Oh, I actually opened it upside down.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I was just, I was looking at stuff. I'm like, what kind of things would I like? And there were a lot of things too that I thought about getting you that I wasn't sure if you already had them or if you would like them. So I tried to keep everything semi-generic.
Yeah, this is something I'm going to definitely keep on my desk.
Yeah. Well, and it's something too, like you have people, I know you work at home, but like, if you're ever like in an office or something and you have it there, like people come in and they'll kind of hang out and it makes people feel a little bit more at ease. So, so anybody who comes in your office now can kind of try to solve those things. Okay. So what do I have one more in here?
So you have one more present. Yeah.
Okay. And then I think you have a couple.
All right.
Okay.
So actually, the thing with the present that you're gonna get, I bought one for myself. I liked it so much. So this is one of those things. So for those of you who don't know and have gotten like anything that's MS Dev Show branded, that's pretty much all me. So I got something for Jason that's MS Dev Show branded. And like I said, yes, it's
in an Xbox wireless controller box.
Yep. So you need to pop it open.
Yep. This will be nice because, anytime I play Xbox, like all the controls are kind of grimy from the kids. Oh, that is so cool.
So not only that, but the thing is, this isn't just a game thing. This is a controller that works on a HoloLens, on IoT. You can use it for development. You can do it for web development.
You use it on your computer too, right?
Yeah.
See, I could use this as my if I do the live or the streaming from the Xbox. So what's cool about this for the audio listeners, since they can't see this, it's blue and white, correct? And then
white.
And then it's red, like the controls are red here, which is a really cool color scheme. And then it actually says MS Dev Show at the bottom.
Yep, I even got it laser engraved.
That is so cool. Wow. You'll have to get a picture of these on Twitter. Man, that's
we'll
awesome.
definitely have to get pictures of everything.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's so cool. Should have bought extras just to put them on display.
So we said 1 gig gift. So you literally got me a rubber chicken that squeaks.
Yeah, I figured your kids would like that too. So
my dog is gonna go nuts over this.
So you can let them play with that. I was like, Carl's gonna kill me.
So this last thing looks like another kind of a puzzle.
Yep.
So it looks like you could just kind of like create whatever with this.
Yeah.
It's some magnetic pieces, and yeah, my kids have had some 2D things like this. So yeah, this is another thing to just keep on the desk and kind of like play with absentmindedly.
Yeah. So it's the big ball of wax is what it's called. 6 color edition. And you I don't know. I guess there's like hundreds of different things you can make out of it. So you have to play around with that and let me know what you think. I thought those were really cool. I played around with it in the store. Sure. It was just something I thought was really neat. There's actually one more thing in your box, or one of your boxes there, by the way. Somehow you missed it. It would have been in the one that had the space needle and the wood puzzle.
Oh, it's a envelope.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I see what this is. So it says right on it, tracker.
Yep.
So in addition to all of my other quirks, I am constantly losing both my wallet and my keys.
Yep. So this was a bit of a selfish gift. I wanted you to let me know how well it works. I'm like, this is a really good opportunity. So if you're not familiar with Tracker and how it works, it's a Bluetooth beacon essentially. And what you end up doing, I actually have one that's a different brand, but I'll explain why the other ones are just terrible. So this thing, it has a little replaceable battery, but what it does, it sends out a Bluetooth beacon every once in a while, and your phone can basically tell if it's nearby and can also give you a signal strength. Not really great for distance, but it can sort of tell how far away it is. But the idea is, let's say it's on your keys and you left your keys somewhere else. Obviously, this thing doesn't have GPS built in, so you can't just go on there and say, oh, here it is on the map. But wherever your phone last saw it, you would actually see it on a map. So if you did leave your keys, let's say they were left in a parking lot, you left them somewhere, you would actually see the last location on there. Now, if somebody took your keys and moved them somewhere else, the map location would actually be incorrect. However, if somebody else has this app installed, the tracker app, they will pick up that beacon and it will actually update the location then on that map. So basically it's a big, what do you call that? Whenever you have a,
kind of like a mesh.
Yeah, it's like a mass. Well, it's like a man. I'm totally blanking on the word. But you basically have crowdsourcing. It's like that. It's like crowdsourcing, geolocating this stuff. So if anybody has that tracker app and they go near the tracker, then it will update the location, which is really cool. So the reason.
So does this also beep?
Yeah, so you can also, like, I think you can press on there, it'll beep your phone. You can go on your phone and have it beep the tracker. I have a different brand that I got for free that's just terrible in every regard. It's just horrible. It's not Tile or anything like that. It's none of the ones you've heard of. It's just terrible. The only two, if I was going to buy one of these things, I'd only buy one of two brands, either this or the Tile. The Tile doesn't have a replaceable battery, which is a huge disappointment. So it really comes down to tracker and Tile. I think Tile gets slightly better reviews. Maybe I think they're about equal though. All of these things get slightly bad reviews because they have to be such low power that they're hardly ever sending out that beacon signal. So they're just not as reliable as what you want them to be. But the other thing is you have to have that huge network. If you don't have 1 million people that are using this, it's pretty useless for actually locating a lost item unless you lost it in your house. But for your keys, I mean, where do you lose your keys most of the time? In the house, right? Being able to make it beep is a huge deal. I'm interested in using one of these devices like on my boosted board. I'm interested in using it, on my keys, and then like in my bag. The other brand that I was using, I would tell you what the brand is, but I can't remember what it is offhand. But I actually had it in my luggage. And I was on the plane, and it actually did show up that it was picking up the signal on the plane. So I was picking up my bag, which was underneath me. So nice. You could get some peace of mind from using one of these devices in your luggage as well. And there's multi-packs you can get. This is the Generation 2 silver one. You can get a multi-pack that has like 5 of these in there. But this was something I wanted you to try out and see if this one actually works any better. I want to get your assessment of it. You can let us know on the show, and then I can figure out if I want to get some of these. So sort of to recap, you got a whole bunch of puzzles. You got a tracker, a little model of Seattle, and then the best gift was the squawking chicken is what it's called.
It definitely squawks.
Yeah. And again, you'll have to have your kids play with that during the show. Okay.
Yeah, and you got those cables, the light up lightning charger cables,
my kids
and you got
these too.
Yep, that's why I got you a bunch. I got you 4 of those so you can use them around.
Yep.
You got the Cortana. You'll have to let me know if anybody can actually play a tune on that.
Well, I'm going to master it, and then I'll play it on the show for you.
And then, of course, the Xbox One controller.
That controller, it looks so sweet. I remember you kind of doing the rendering at one point. You're like, oh, this would be cool to have some of these controllers.
I couldn't justify it at the time, but I'm like, Christmas? Yep.
Yeah, good excuse to spend money. Very cool. Well, thank you, Carl. That was awesome stuff. So we'll have a link in the show notes to all the stuff. Hopefully we described everything well enough over the audio feed. Otherwise, go check out the video feed. We'll have a link to that as well, and you can see all the stuff in person. Well, not in person, but digitally. Okay, so moving on, so I actually picked something for the Azure Pick of the Week. I have done a bad job at the Azure Pick of the Week for the past 40 episodes or so. Sorry, I haven't been doing my job. So this was actually something that I wrote. I put it out on GitHub. This was something I wanted to try, and I had a partner I'm working with gave me an excuse to prototype some of this stuff, and I'm going to be expanding the functionality. So since it is a GitHub repo, it's going to, if you keep looking at it, you'll keep seeing more and more code. But what this is basically, it really doesn't matter like what it does. It's more the technologies that I use that I thought were more interesting. But it's really just it's an endpoint for checking to see if nodes deployed out in the field or systems deployed out in the field, if they have an update, so they can kind of phone home and say, hey, here's my current identifier. Do I have an update available? And so again, I think the technology is more interesting than the scenario. So what this is using is it's using Azure Functions with, you can use that with a dynamic host plan. So you can essentially run this for free in Azure or for pennies. You'd have to have a ton of systems calling these APIs to ever have to actually pay anything substantial. But what's different about just using pure Azure Functions is that I'm actually using DocumentDB on the back end for my persistent store, because I'm using Node.js, and DocumentDB pairs really well with Node.js because DocumentDB is a document store. It obviously saves JSON files very nicely. So that's something that I've been wanting to try. Basically a stateless Azure function that's, essentially like a microservice that's hitting against a DocDB persistent backend. And the other thing that I wanted to try here that is sort of a recent thing is the Azure Functions team actually released some command line tooling for creating a functions solution, and then also for creating functions and to run functions locally. So I actually developed this 100% local on my local machine, and it's using essentially the same execution environment that you'd have in Azure. And then what I actually did, it was literally this morning and took me about 60 seconds, was I deployed it to Azure. And it would, like I said, it was 60 seconds. It ran exactly the same in the Azure environment, because I was already hitting against DocumentDB on the back end, but it was using the same execution environment that I was able to run locally. So I was pretty excited about this. I'm going to add in some other things. I think it's probably going to end up talking to blob storage, potentially to download some files and do some other things. But I just think it's amazing being able to use something like Azure Functions along with DocumentDB, along with some of these other things, and not have to manage a server. Literally, I'm just telling Azure to execute my code whenever somebody makes an HTTP call, and it just handles everything for me. The only other thing I wanted to mention on that was DocumentDB. One thing that they added, and I don't know if we had mentioned on the show, is they actually have an option to expose DocumentDB with a MongoDB interface. Did you know that, Carl?
I knew about it, but I've never checked it out.
Yeah, so it gave me an excuse to try that as well. First, I tried to use the regular DocumentDB client, and it's very verbose. Like, you need a lot of code to do it. And honestly, like, a lot of that code you should be using in production, because it's, they have error handling in there, and they're just handling the whole flow very well. But it was just a lot of code. It was more than what I wanted in a sample. So I actually used the MongoDB interface, and I literally just used the regular MongoDB client. And for the URL, I just put in the URL that Azure gives me for DocumentDB. It gives you a special MongoDB compatible interface. I plug that in, and boom, I just use the MongoDB documentation. And it was super easy. I mean, it's just a couple lines of code for interacting with DocumentDB. Then in Azure too, I want to mention that there's a hosted version of MongoDB as well. I did not use that. I wanted to use DocumentDB because DocumentDB, was born in the cloud. It was designed for cloud right from the start. So that's really the route that I wanted to go. And I think it's fine putting a MongoDB front end on that just to make the interface a little bit more mature and easier to work with. So what is your dev tip of the week, Carl?
So I have two.
Okay.
The first is just a piece of suggestion. A lot of the times, once again, I think this is the third episode in a row I'm mentioning that I'm a Microsoft MVP. And the reason why I say that is, we have access to people at Microsoft that normal people don't have access to. And what's kind of interesting is if you have a problem with the store or the developer portal for submitting your Windows applications to the Windows Store, we are actually given the same email address that everybody else has access to. So if you have a problem with the either having a problem with an app in the store, getting an app in the store, or the developer portal as a whole, send an email to reportapp@microsoft.com. That email address is in there. And sometimes it's a little bit hard to find. And sometimes it's hard to remember, like, hey, if I'm having any problem whatsoever in any of that process, that's a pretty big process. Mm-hmm. Email that. They'll give you actually really good support. I've had to use it a few times, and I've always gotten really good support out of it. There are real people monitoring that.
Awesome.
The other one is we've had a bunch of VS Code keyboard shortcuts recently, mm-hmm. and the actual @code Twitter account actually just put out a cheat sheet for the Windows, the Mac, and the Linux versions. So we'll have a link to that in our show notes. So if you are using any one of those or all of them, you can download those these shortcut cheat sheets and check them out.
Did you look at the replies to this tweet?
I know I didn't really.
So I love this. The first one, help, how do I close it? I typed :Q exclamation and nothing happened, which is a Vim joke. And then Visual Studio Code didn't realize it was a joke. So they said, sorry, how do you close what exactly? And they said, I'm joking around, guys. Cheers for the good editor. I just got a kick out of that. They were trolling the @code account. But yeah, these cheat sheets are awesome. I'm gonna print it out. I have to figure out where I want to hang the thing, but that's the issue here. I can put it at work. I have a cork board, but yeah, it's got all the shortcuts, so it's great. Carl, pick a number between 1 and 4.
I'll pick 2.
2. Oh, jeez. Okay. On a dare, because apparently you have to do it then, would you rather have to dig a booger out of a stranger's nose or allow a stranger to dig a booger out of your nose?
So I'm assuming it's not just like, because it's a dare, you have to go up and say, hey, want to pick a booger out of my nose?
That's a good point. Yeah. Well, the other one, I don't know, because it says allow a stranger.
Yeah.
So it doesn't say ask a stranger.
So this is a little bit of a tangent, but have you ever seen the show Impractical Jokers?
I think I have seen some episodes.
Yeah. So what that show is, it's 4 guys who have known each other since they were little kids. They try to force them into these kinds of situations where they have to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
you're stalling.
I would do either, really. No, I would do either, really. I mean, both of them are about equal in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
I mean, it's only your finger in somebody's nose. You can wipe it off and use sanitizer afterwards.
Yeah. Okay, so here's mine. For $1 million prize. I like how yours is just on a dare and mine's I get $1 million because I picked 1 because I can see the card. I get to cheat. For $1 million prize, would you rather have to keep a hula hoop going for 5 minutes without stopping? I'm incapable of doing that, so that's a no. Or have to pogo stick across a football field without stopping or falling. I don't know if you know this about me, Carl, but I have really good balance.
Well, you have been working on your balance with your boosted board too.
That's true. But I picked that up pretty quick. I'd almost consider that a side effect. I don't think that was the cause of it. I'm really difficult to knock over. Let's put it that way. So the pogo stick, I've only been on a pogo stick for 30 seconds, but I'm pretty sure that in pretty short order I could get to a point where I could go across a football field.
So last year for Christmas we got 2 of our kids pogo sticks.
Yeah.
And Peyton this summer, when he was actually really trying, in the course of an afternoon, he got to where he could do it 400 or 500 jumps in a row.
Yeah, exactly. So I would do that. So let me know when you can send me $1 million. Yeah, my middle son, he's very determined whenever he wants to do something. So he was determined to master that pogo stick. And then he, I don't know what happened, but he started to fall over. And these things are on a spring, and it basically sprung and smacked him in the face pretty good. So just, beware. Those pogo sticks can be pretty dangerous. Okay. So, yeah, go ahead, Carl.
So speaking of this, this game that we play, it was my birthday recently, and Joost van Schaik had he was a guest on the show a while back. He said happy birthday and pick a number between 1 and 4 inclusive on my Facebook page. So I replied, I pick 1 and wish for Jason to be much less pedantic next year.
Not gonna happen.
Nope.
So what did he have a response then for 1 or?
He just liked it.
Oh,
like the back.
Yeah, that would have been funny if he had questions lined up for you. Okay, well, so where can people find you, Carl?
You can find me on Twitter at Carl Schweitzer.
You can find me at ytechie.com or on Twitter at twitter.com/ytechie. So, Carl, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to all of our listeners.
And whatever else that we may have missed, happy whatever to all of our guests as well.
Yep, whatever you celebrate, have fun with that. And I hope whatever it is that there's presents involved, because that's a shame if there isn't. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to all of our listeners. It's just been crazy. We look at the numbers, the growth. We look at that curve. It's just amazing. We love having all these new listeners come on. We're really thankful to all of you. It's funny because you'll hear, I've heard, I'm not going to call it names, but there's another podcast where they say this show wouldn't be possible without our sponsors. Our show totally is possible without our sponsors, but they really make it so that we can do cool stuff. So, I want to give a special thank you to Espose. And then previously we had Infragistics as a sponsor for most of the year. So I want to say thank you to them as well. But they make it so that we can do things like these Christmas gifts, and we can show up at different places and hand out swag and all those kinds of things. So we're really thankful for, to everybody for making it so that we can do really cool stuff on the show.